Man, I wish I had the balls that Nintendo does of just doing anything that's controversial and just not caring and just going forward with it anyway. Look at him. Unfazed, man. Unfazed. Ayo, guys, with the recent announcement that the Wii U and 3DS shops are closing down in 2023 and the impending death of the Virtual Console that awaits us, I thought I'd dust out this video idea I had way back when before the expansion pack was announced and we had the rumors of Game Boy games coming to the Switch, but instead we got Nintendo 64 games, so that basically killed half my idea at the time, and I sat on it, and now I'm gonna update it with the absolute state of Nintendo's stance on retro gaming preservation. This video will mainly focus on Virtual Console games, but I do understand the absolute terrible fact that we're also losing Wii U and 3DS games to download and purchase. It sucks because we're gonna lose the options of buying these games digitally for retail versus having to pay an outrageous resale prices for the games physically. I mean, recently I bought Dragon Quest on the 3DS and I paid a lot of money, and I can only imagine how much higher they're gonna get. So technically, I bought them at the right time. But I'm sorry for those that are missing out. I understand. For the collectors, I'm really praying for those wallets, man. They are gonna be hurting. I know you guys are gonna pay a gross amount of money for Devil's Third, but I don't get it because it is Devil's Third. But you know, collectors gotta collect, but I still don't get it, man. Not for that game. Don't do it, man. Don't pay so much money for that game. It's not worth it. But back on track, the Virtual Console was so great back in the day when it was announced for the Wii. The Wii was the ultimate backwards compatible machine. You could play so many retro games from a variety of consoles. We had 427 games to choose. 427, that number's kind of familiar. I don't know, maybe like if I was born in that day. Anyway, we got games from the NES, SNES, and the Nintendo 64. The GameCube was not included on the Virtual Console library, but the Wii was backwards compatible with GameCube games, so we still had the options to play them. But they had offered games outside of Nintendo's libraries as well, like the TurboGrafx 16 CD, Sega consoles surprisingly with the Master System and the Genesis, the Neo Geo, the Commodore 64, and finally offered arcade games. I don't know where you guys put the Wii, if it's underrated or overrated, but the Wii was a great console and gave you so many great games to play. And the Virtual Console was a fan favorite at the time, and thankfully it did not die with the Wii and would come over to the 3DS and Wii U. But sadly, the way it was handled on the Wii U was probably the reason why the service possibly died off and was not brought over to the Switch. But this is all just speculation from my part. There's probably a reason why I already explained out there, but I couldn't find it. But you guys can let me know. Let me know in the comments how shit I am at Googling stuff. You're probably right. But yeah, I came to the conclusion, and I'm pretty sure everyone else said, that the reason was how they handled the rollout of the Virtual Console on the Wii U. When the Virtual Console first launched on the Wii, it started out with some NES games, Super Nintendo games, Genesis, and Super Mario 64. Not a bad launch, at least for Nintendo, because what do you expect from Nintendo? Not much. I don't expect much. Nintendo's really bad at this online thing, because when the Wii U launched, the Virtual Console was not available until months after, only to have select NES and SNES games available at launch. So the launch of the Virtual Console did not excite anyone on the Wii U because all these games were already available on the Wii with a larger library. So where were all these games available for the Wii U? The Wii U Virtual Console rollout was just so frustrating. When they first revealed it, they had a great program where select games were released on the Wii U for 30 cents. What a great deal, right? But if you had a Wii, which you most likely did because you were a Wii U owner, because I can't imagine any 360 or PS3 owner to be like, oh hell yeah, the Wii U's the future with that gamepad, probably had all these games already on your Virtual Console on your Wii. However, if you didn't have a Wii or bought any games for your Virtual Console, this was a great deal. 10 games for 30 cents, that's $3, not a bad deal at all. But for those that had already bought all these games back on the Wii Virtual Console, what do? Do you wait for Nintendo to give you the option to transfer all your Wii Virtual Console games to your Wii U? Or just buy the games now instead of waiting for 30 cents, because come on, like 30 cents isn't a lot of money. But it's about the goddamn principle at this point. I've already paid for these games. I will not buy these games now because I'm pretty sure Nintendo will honor the fact that I bought these games on the Wii and let me transfer them over to the Wii U. Right? Oh man, we know how this turned out. Remember how I said that Nintendo's really bad at this online thing? Well, surprisingly, they were actually able to look up that yes, you bought a lot of these games back on the Wii Virtual Console, but you still had to pay to get these games you already previously owned on the Virtual Console to get them on your Wii U. God damn it, Nintendo. You are something else. And not only that, but it had such a horrible schedule, if you can even call it that, in which all the games came out. First, it only started out with the NES and SNES games. Afterwards, they released Game Boy Advance games. I'm not saying this is bad, but why weren't these games also brought over to the 3DS too? I guess I can continue to feel special because I was one of the early suckers, believers in the Nintendo 3DS, and I have the Ambassador games. So I have the 10 only Game Boy Advance games on the 3DS. But I wanted more. Nintendo, why did I have to get Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga for the Wii U instead of the 3DS? Why? I'm not mad, I still got to get the game and play it, but I would have preferred it on the 3DS. And then it took years to finally get Nintendo 64 games on the Wii U. And then surprisingly enough, we got Nintendo DS games on there too. But it made so much sense since the Wii was basically the home console version of the Nintendo DS. But now we were finally getting to the games that everyone wanted on the Virtual Console, GameCube games. Instead, they added Virtual Wii games. Don't get me wrong, it was actually a great inclusion, but it's just a little frustrating because we were all waiting for GameCube games to finally make it on the Virtual Console. But it's good to have Wii on there because eventually those games get discontinued and are really expensive on the resale market, so I can't complain on that. But we just want GameCube games. And then that was all the offerings for the Virtual Console for the Wii U. And then the worst part of it all was that a lot of people probably didn't get a lot of the NES, SNES, or maybe even the Nintendo 64 games, because a lot of loyal fans were probably pissed off at the fact you have to pay upwards of $2 to transfer all your Wii Virtual Console games over to your Wii U. And it also doesn't help the fact that it took forever to get a lot of these games on the Wii U Virtual Console. And to add even more salt to the wound, the 3DS Virtual Console didn't even offer any way of transferring any previously bought games from the Virtual Console over to your 3DS. So if you ever wanted to replay any NES games and also you needed a new 3DS to replay any SNES game, you had to repurchase these games anyway, even if you bought them in the past. And that's how you piss off your audience. I don't think there's a way of knowing how well or not the Virtual Console did on the Wii U, but seeing that the Wii U only sold about 13 million units, and who knows how many of those were active, and with how slow the rollout was, I can't imagine it was well enough to bring back the service back on the Switch. This was probably one of the few times where we all showed a company how upset we were with our wallets, and instead of the company doing the right thing, they just said, fuck it, you get nothing now. Nintendo is a different animal. I'll say it again, Nintendo's really bad at this online thing. I'm pretty sure that Nintendo was just too lazy to make it so all these games from the Virtual Console carried over to the Switch, and that's why we don't have the Virtual Console on there. But we do have the Nintendo Switch Online that is basically the online streaming version of the Virtual Console, so what's the what are we missing? What's the outcry? At first, we were to believe that the Nintendo Switch Online was just an online subscription so we can play online multiplayer games, but surprisingly, they added NES and then eventually SNES games part of the package. So it wasn't a bad deal at the time, but then we were all hoping that we'll finally get more games added onto it. So then they introduced the expansion pack that allowed us to play Nintendo 64 games and Sega Genesis games also on the Switch, but they were charging us now $50 a year, and then the whole internet lost their fucking minds. Once again, the subject of is it too much money for the service is brought up. Is it too much? I mean, we have 11 games at this point, maybe 12 by the time this video releases, of Nintendo 64 games available on the Switch, and with the reports of that the emulation is being updated and performing way better now, is it that bad of a service? Let's just say this, if you've never bought any of these games before, and let's say they were $10 each on the Virtual Console, we would be looking at a $120 value at $50 a year. Not too bad for the first year, and you also get Sega Genesis games and DLC included with this package. And don't forget, you also have NES and Super Nintendo games too. You can almost argue that $50 a year is actually a good value for everything you're getting, but what happens when we don't want to pay anymore for the service? We lose everything. Versus if we were given the choice of what games we wanted and we get ownership of the games, we wouldn't have to worry about losing the ability to play these games that are tied to a subscription. That was the true beauty of the Virtual Console, true retro gaming preservation, and Nintendo is going to kill that. And I understand that a lot of people might not like having to pay for the expansion pack to play maybe 1 or 2 games that they only really want to play. Also, it didn't help that the launch was plagued with issues and, just the emulation not running as well. But sadly, this is the future of Virtual Console because the Virtual Console we knew and loved is gone, or going to be gone. If Nintendo's able to get a nice library of Nintendo 64 games for the expansion pack for $50, maybe the price tag might not hurt as much as it did at launch. Like I said, it sucks having to pay for these games yearly to not even own these games, but to possibly have a large library of games for an additional $30 to the online subscription might not be too bad in the long run. And the fact that we're also getting paid DLC included with the expansion pack helps a lot. I was thinking it might be 1 paid DLC a year for the subscription, but it might still be that case since Animal Crossing DLC was $20 2021 and Mario Kart 8 is for 2022. So we'll have to wait and see later on this year if we get any more paid DLC included, but to get them so close to each other is a good sign. But what happens when Nintendo's next-gen console releases? Is Nintendo Switch Online built so that it's ready to be used on the next console? The NSO? And if the next console is not the Switch successor, let's remove that S, and I'm thinking that it's a big fat no. The NSO might not be a platform that is ready to be there at the launch of Nintendo's next-gen console. So what does that mean? Are all these retro games once again going to be in limbo for the first part of the next console's life cycle? Will it once again take forever to get all these games available on the next console, even though they were all available on the Switch? It's so hard to know with Nintendo, but if we look at the past, it sadly looks like that Nintendo will probably fuck this up. It would be really nice if they were to bring back the Virtual Console to give us the ability to just outright buy the games that we want and not have to worry about a subscription. There's a minority of people that don't even game online and don't want to pay for a subscription. They just want to get a couple certain games. It's all about the options, but Nintendo does not roll that way. Nintendo just knows that we're gonna bend over and take it either way they like it, man. Just be gentle. The Nintendo Switch is the perfect system for Virtual Console. Unlike previous home consoles, the Switch is not tied to your entertainment system or your TV. With the Wii and Wii U, you run the problem of space. I know not everyone goes through this, but some people do. There might be people who just don't have the space to keep older consoles connected to their TV. But with the Switch, it's a system that's independent. You ever feeling nostalgic? Just pick it up and it's ready to play. Hopefully if it's charged. Just like the 3DS, the Virtual Console on that is awesome. We're just missing Game Boy Advance games, but it would be the ultimate, backwards compatible machine because you can play DS games, Game Boy Color games, Game Boy games, and of course a vast library of 3DS games. All without the worry of having to switch cables, make sure there's room on your desk because we all run through the same problem. Do we even have enough room? I have so much shit, man. It's a problem. Too much shit, man. But this all falls on Nintendo. Maybe the NSO is built to be ready for the next gen console, because if it's not, one day the servers are going to shut down and the large library of games will be lost again on the Switch. And then once again the internet's gonna be pissed off again like always. Sorry for the back and forth there, but you can see the internal conflict I'm having with myself. I really want the Virtual Console to make a comeback, but I know that it won't. And then I want to accept the Nintendo Switch Online plus the expansion pack, because at some point it's not that bad of a value, but then when you think about how bad Nintendo is with the online thing, it's going to end awful. And we're only talking about the Virtual Console here. I only mentioned it for a bit, but we're gonna be losing a giant library of Wii U and 3DS games when the servers shut down too. Like I said, goddamn, I'm not looking forward to these prices. I love owning physical media, and when these servers shut down, I can't imagine the prices. I think I have everything, right? I have everything. If not, oh god, I'm probably gonna be missing something, and I'm gonna hate my fucking life when I find out what it is. At least I have Xenoblade Chronicles X. You see what you're doing to us, Nintendo? Look, why are you doing this to us? The Wii U and the 3DS are gimmick consoles. They are dependent on the two screens and the gamepad. They're gonna be impossible to emulate down the line. The Switch can't do it. And I'm pretty sure that the next console won't be able to do it either way, so why not keep this online shops available for those that still want to pick up games that they never picked up previously for these consoles? That's all I have to say on the matter, because Nintendo is not gonna change, and there's nothing I can say to make them change either. Nintendo, man, love them or hate them, they are something else. So what do you guys think? Can Nintendo Switch Online one day make up for the fact that we're gonna lose the Virtual Console forever, or is it priced too high, or are we gonna get stuck in the same loop of losing it eventually down the road? Or am I really the only person talking about the Virtual Console in 2022 when probably a lot of us already accepted the Nintendo Switch Online? Well, that system is gonna be the future of retro gaming going forward for Nintendo. I just really want to reminisce and do a look back at the Virtual Console since it's ending soon, so don't forget to get any titles that you might be missing before they're all gone. If not,
Don't say that shit again.
I'm sorry. And if you made it this far into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like my content. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching, I appreciate you.